You think you know yourself. You don't. Not really. The person you imagine yourself to be and the person you actually are, they're not the same. And the gap between them is where everything interesting lives. Decades of psychological research have uncovered patterns that reveal who you truly are beneath the surface. Not horoscope nonsense. Not personality quiz fluff. Real, observable traits that predict how you'll handle failure, who you'll become in relationships, and what actually drives your decisions when no one's watching. These are the psychological facts that show you who you really are. Some of them might surprise you. Something uncomfortable first. Most people walk through life having never met themselves. They have a story about who they are, sure, a narrative they've been telling since childhood. But stories aren't truth. They're just the version we've decided to believe. Psychology doesn't care about your story. It cares about patterns, what you do when you're tired, how you respond when things fall apart, the small unglamorous moments that reveal character when no one's keeping score. This isn't about labeling yourself or fitting into some neat category. Personality research has spent decades tracking thousands of people across their entire lives. What it found is both humbling and fascinating. Consistencies in human behavior predict outcomes better than talent, education, or luck. Traits you might not even know you have shape everything from your relationships to your career to how you'll age. Self-knowledge isn't automatic. You don't get it just by existing. You have to look. And looking honestly at yourself is one of the hardest things a person can do. So, that's exactly what we're going to do. We'll look at the patterns that reveal who you really are, starting with something most people completely underestimate. Let me describe someone to you. This person says they'll call you back, and then they actually do. When they commit to something, it happens. No reminders needed, no follow-up required. They just do what they said they would. Sounds basic, right? It isn't. That trait is rarer than most people realize, and it's one of the strongest predictors of success psychology has ever identified. It's called conscientiousness. Honestly, it sounds boring. It doesn't have the flash of creativity or the appeal of charisma. But decades of research show conscientiousness predicts career success better than intelligence. It predicts relationship stability. It predicts health outcomes. People who score high on this trait don't just achieve more, they achieve more consistently across every domain of life because reliability compounds. Every time you follow through, you build trust. Every deadline you meet, every promise you keep, every small commitment you honor, it adds up. Meanwhile, talent without consistency just becomes potential that never converts. You know that person who reads the instructions before assembling something? Who shows up 5 minutes early instead of 5 minutes late? That's conscientiousness in action. It's respect made visible, discipline without drama. Talent might get you noticed. Reliability is what gets you trusted, and trust is the foundation everything else is built on. Now consider something different. Some people fall apart when life gets hard. Others stay steady, not cold, not detached, but grounded in a way that lets them think clearly when everyone else is panicking. That difference isn't random. It's a trait called emotional stability, and it reveals something fundamental about how you're wired. People low in neuroticism don't feel less than everyone else. That's a misconception. They feel everything, sometimes deeply. The difference is they don't get hijacked by it. When anxiety shows up, they acknowledge it and keep moving. When stress hits, they bend without breaking. This isn't about suppressing emotions. Suppression is pretending you're fine when you're not. Emotional stability is different. It's the ability to feel something fully without letting it run the show. It's the space between stimulus and response where wisdom lives. What makes this interesting is that emotional stability can be developed. It's not purely genetic destiny. Practices like mindfulness, cognitive reframing, building tolerance for discomfort over time. These expand your capacity to stay calm when things get chaotic. The person who keeps their head in a crisis, they weren't born that way. They were built that way, through every small moment where they chose steadiness over reaction. To be fair, higher neuroticism isn't all bad. It often correlates with creativity and sensitivity. But if you want resilience under pressure, emotional stability is the foundation. Speaking of how we're wired, here's a question worth asking yourself. What happens to your energy after spending 3 hours at a party full of strangers? If you feel drained, like you need to recharge alone, you're probably more introverted. If you feel energized, like you could keep going, you lean extroverted. This isn't about being shy or outgoing. It's about where your energy comes from. Extroverts draw fuel from external stimulation. Conversations, new environments, social interaction. It fills their tank. Introverts need to go inward to refill. Solitude, reflection, quiet, that's where they restore. Neither is better. Both have distinct advantages. Extroverts often build larger networks more quickly. They're frequently seen as natural leaders because they're comfortable taking up space. Introverts bring something equally powerful, though: deep listening, thoughtful responses, the ability to sit with complexity instead of rushing past it. Something about charisma that most people get wrong. Charismatic people don't walk into rooms trying to seem interesting. They walk in and make other people feel interesting. That's the whole thing. Charisma isn't about projecting outward, it's about directing attention in ways that make others feel seen. You can be introverted and charismatic. You can be extroverted and socially awkward. The trait determines where you get your energy, not how skilled you are at using it. What matters is knowing your wiring and working with it, not against it. And then there's the matter of how you engage with the world itself. Some people are perfectly content with routine. Same coffee, same route to work, same conversations about the weather. Nothing wrong with that. Stable, predictable, comfortable. Some people need more, though. They're pulled toward the unfamiliar. New ideas make them feel alive. They read about topics that have nothing to do with their jobs. They ask questions that others consider settled. They wonder. This is openness to experience, and it's one of the most fascinating traits in personality research. High openness correlates with creativity. These are the people who see connections others miss, who generate unconventional solutions, who get bored by the obvious answer and keep digging. They're the curious explorers who treat knowledge like a treasure hunt with no endpoint. Curious people don't have more answers, they have better questions. Better questions lead to better thinking, better decisions, better outcomes over time. There's a shadow side, though. High openness can become restlessness. The grass is always greener somewhere else. Commitment can feel like constraint. The next interesting thing is always pulling attention away from the current thing. If you're someone who constantly seeks novelty, the challenge isn't finding stimulation. It's learning to go deep instead of just wide. Curiosity is the engine, discipline is the steering wheel. The most powerful combination? Curiosity that commits, openness that follows through, exploration that builds instead of just wandering. Which brings us to something that operates on an entirely different level. You know that person who walks into a room and immediately senses something's off? Before anyone says a word, they notice the tension. They catch the micro expression that flashes across someone's face for half a second. They feel what others feel, sometimes before those people even know they're feeling it. That's empathy. Genuinely a superpower. It lets you connect at depths that surface-level interactions never reach. It builds trust faster than any technique. It makes people feel understood in ways they can't even articulate. But there's something about empathy that rarely gets mentioned. It costs something. When you feel what others feel, you carry weight that isn't yours. You absorb anxiety, sadness, frustration from everyone around you. Without boundaries, empathy becomes a drain that leaves you depleted and wondering why you're always exhausted. Join our YouTube membership and get exclusive perks like early access to scripts, input on future topics about productivity, and connect with a like-minded community that gets it. Click join below and let's build your easier, more intentional life together. Emotional intelligence is related but distinct. It's not just feeling emotions, it's understanding them, reading social cues accurately, and navigating complex interpersonal situations without making them worse. People with high emotional intelligence read rooms better than raw IQ ever could. Agreeableness connects here too. Highly agreeable people build relationships easily. They smooth over conflicts, create harmony, and make others feel comfortable. They also struggle to say no. They put others' needs first until there's nothing left for themselves. The most effective empaths aren't the ones who feel the most. They're the ones who feel deeply and protect their energy at the same time. They learned often the hard way that you can't pour from an empty cup. Now picture someone who's genuinely accomplished, really good at what they do. Years of experience, real expertise, actual achievements worth mentioning. Now, imagine they almost never mention them. That's humility. Wildly underrated. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's confidence that doesn't need to announce itself because it has nothing to prove. The humble person can admit when they're wrong, ask questions that reveal what they don't know, and celebrate others' successes without feeling diminished. The paradox is that humble people often accomplish more than arrogant ones, not despite their humility, but because of it. They keep learning where others have stopped. They build coalitions where others create competition. They earn respect that can't be demanded. There's a related trait psychologists call honesty humility. It's about sincerity over self-promotion. People high in this trait don't manipulate to get ahead. They don't inflate their contributions. They're genuine in a way that stands out precisely because it's becoming rare. Ever notice how the wisest people you know rarely start sentences with the word actually? That's not a coincidence. Wisdom and the need to correct others don't usually live in the same house. Quiet strength commands respect in ways that loud confidence never can. It doesn't demand attention. It earns it through consistent character. Which leads us somewhere important. Let me tell you what resilience isn't. It's not being unbreakable. It's not never falling apart. It's not some superhuman immunity to pain. Everyone breaks at some point. That's not failure, that's being human. Resilience is what happens next. It's the rebuild. It's the choice to get back up when staying down would be easier and no one would blame you. Psychologists have tracked people through divorces, job losses, health crises, and the worst moments life can deliver. What separates those who recover from those who don't isn't what you'd expect. It's not money or intelligence or even support systems, though those help. It's the internal belief that they can adapt, the conviction that they have some control over their response, even when they can't control what happened. Adaptability connects to this. The people who thrive in chaos aren't the ones who never face it. They're the ones who've learned to move with it instead of fighting it. They adjust their approach rather than insisting reality adjusts to them. Persistence is the long game version. It's what keeps you moving toward goals that take years, not weeks. It's tenacity without drama, determination that doesn't require an audience. I used to think resilience was something you either had or didn't. That was wrong. Every time you survive something you weren't sure you could, you build more of it. Every hard thing you get through becomes evidence that hard things can be gotten through. The question isn't whether you'll face adversity. You will. The question is what you'll do in the broken places. And that brings us to something equally important. Who do you spend the most time with? Not your partner, not your best friend, not your family. You. You spend every waking moment with yourself. So how well do you actually know that person? Self-awareness is one of those things everyone thinks they have, and most people don't. Not really. Studies consistently show that humans are remarkably bad at assessing their own abilities, motivations, and impact on others. We have blind spots we don't even know are blind spots. True self-awareness means seeing yourself accurately, not just positively. It means recognizing when you're rationalizing instead of reasoning, noticing the patterns you keep repeating, even though they keep hurting you, understanding why certain things trigger you while others don't. This isn't comfortable work. Looking honestly at yourself means encountering parts you'd rather not acknowledge, the ways you've been unkind, the times your intentions didn't match your impact, the gap between who you claim to be and who you actually are, when it costs you something to be good. If you're sitting there thinking, that's not really me, I'm pretty self-aware, that might actually prove the point. Self-awareness is tricky that way. It matters because self-awareness is the foundation of growth. You can't improve what you can't see. You can't change patterns you refuse to acknowledge. The people who develop most rapidly aren't necessarily the most talented. They're the most willing to see themselves clearly. And there's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from performing. Curating yourself for every audience. showing different versions depending on who's watching. Managing the gap between who you are and who you think you should be. Eventually, something in you just gets tired of it. Authenticity is the relief of dropping that performance. Being the same person in public that you are in private. Saying what you actually think instead of what seems safe. Letting people see the real version, not just the highlight reel. This is harder than it sounds. We're trained from childhood to manage impressions. We learn which parts of ourselves get approval and which ones get punished. Over time, we can lose track of which version is the performance and which one is us. I need you to really hear this. Vulnerability isn't the opposite of strength. It's the proof of it. It takes courage to let people see you without armor. Anyone can hide behind a confident facade. Showing what's underneath requires something more. The irony is that authenticity is what creates real connection. The relationships that matter most aren't built on your best self. They're built on your real self, complete with flaws and contradictions and all the messy parts that make you human. Integrity lives here too. It's not just doing the right thing when people are watching, it's doing the right thing when they're not, because that's who you actually are. Think about a moment of kindness you showed someone 5 years ago. A small thing, probably. Words of encouragement during a hard time. Showing up when it wasn't convenient. Remembering something they mentioned once and following up on it. You've probably forgotten it. They haven't. Generosity creates ripples you never get to see. The encouragement you gave someone in passing might have been the thing that kept them going that week. The patience you showed when you had every right to be frustrated might have modeled something they carried forward into every relationship after. This isn't about keeping score. Actually, that's kind of the point. The most meaningful generosity happens without expectation of return. It's altruism in its truest form. Giving because giving is who you are, not because you're building social credit. People who empower others multiply their impact exponentially. Instead of hoarding knowledge or success, they share it freely. They lift people up and somehow end up higher themselves, though that was never the goal. You know that friend who remembers the small things you mentioned weeks ago? Who checks in when they know you're going through something? Who makes you feel important in a world that often makes people feel invisible? That's not a common trait. That's a gift they probably don't even know they have. Kindness compounds the same way reliability does. Every act of genuine care adds to a current that flows in directions you'll never trace. Something that took me a long time to accept. Forgiveness isn't saying what happened was okay. It's not excusing the behavior or pretending it didn't hurt or letting someone off the hook because they deserve it. Half the time, they don't deserve it. Forgiveness is saying, you're not going to carry it anymore. When you hold on to resentment, you're the one carrying the weight. The other person has moved on, probably isn't thinking about it at all, while you're still reviewing the footage, rehearsing arguments, feeling the anger fresh every time. Forgiveness is you putting that weight down. Not for them, for you. This doesn't mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still never speak to them again. You can release the bitterness without reopening the door. Boundaries and forgiveness aren't opposites. They work together. Gratitude lives in similar territory. It's the ability to notice what's good when your brain would rather catalog what's wrong. It sounds simple, almost cliché at this point, because it's been plastered on too many motivational posters. That doesn't make it less true. People who practice gratitude aren't ignoring their problems. They're expanding their attention to include what's working alongside what's broken. This shift doesn't fix anything external, but it changes how heavy everything feels. Peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of perspective. And perspective often comes from having something larger to move toward. Purpose isn't something you find lying around one day like lost keys. You don't stumble onto it fully formed and suddenly everything makes sense. Purpose is something you build. It's constructed from every choice you make about what matters and what doesn't. From the things you keep doing, even when no one is watching or rewarding you for it. People who are purpose-driven have something that others notice even if they can't name it. There's a coherence to how they live. Their actions and their values actually align, which is much rarer than it should be. This isn't about having some grand mission statement for your life. Purpose can be quiet. It can be as simple as being the person your family can count on, or doing work that helps even a few people, or creating something that didn't exist before you made it. Visionary thinking connects here. It's the ability to see futures that others dismiss as unrealistic, to hold a picture of what could be and move toward it even when the path isn't clear. Vision without ethics is dangerous, though. That's why an internal compass matters. Knowing what lines you won't cross, even when crossing them would be easier. Having principles that aren't for sale. Courage enters here too. Purpose usually requires doing things that scare you, following meaning instead of comfort, choosing the harder path because it's the right one. Remember what we said about resilience, about self-awareness, about authenticity? This is where it all connects. Purpose is what gives those traits direction. So now we bring this all together. You're not just one trait. You're not just conscientious or resilient or empathic. You're a complex weave of patterns, some you inherited, some you developed, some you're still discovering. None of it is fixed. That's the most important thing psychology has taught us about personality. Yes, there are tendencies. Yes, some patterns are more stable than others. You're not a finished product, though. Every day, in small ways, you're becoming someone. The question is whether that becoming is intentional or accidental. The traits we've talked about, reliability, emotional stability, curiosity, empathy, humility, resilience, self-awareness, authenticity, generosity, forgiveness, purpose. These aren't boxes to check. They're directions to grow. Some you might already embody, others might feel like aspirations more than descriptions. That's fine. That's human. Self-understanding isn't the destination. It's the starting point. Once you see the patterns, you can work with them. Strengthen what serves you. Adjust what doesn't. Keep evolving. You are not the story you've been telling about yourself. You are the person who shows up day after day in the moments no one else sees. The sum of 1,000 small choices that reveal character more than any personality test ever could. Who you really are isn't a mystery to solve. It's a person to meet, slowly, honestly, over a lifetime. And the meeting has already begun. And hey, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Also, let me know your thoughts on what I just shared. Oh, and there's more. I've just started a Patreon to help support these videos and connect with you more directly. Check out the link in the description if you'd like to join.